Okay, so this is Antiphon, and it is the development of the AI dialogue, which I showed in the last video, to a point where I'm able to release it and you're actually able to play with it. So the way that you can grab it is if you go to maxcasper.com, I've just got it linked here. You can also go just on my GitHub, and it's super simple to install. You just got to go cargo install and then the repo basically, and then you can use it with Antiphon. So I'll just demonstrate that whole process for you, and then we can get into it. So I'll just open up the terminal again. We're running on VSL, which is a Linux subsystem. And let's just get Antiphon here. Antiphon is running not in a particular repo, it's a global installation. But as I'll show you in a moment, you can actually point it to particular repos or folders to work inside of, which makes it really flexible, because before Antiphon was really kind of stuck in its own repo. And now I've kind of freed it, let's say, to make it a tool that is applicable for any repo. So we'll just start Antiphon. So this is Antiphon. It's similar to as I showed in the last video, but I've tweaked some things to make it even more usable. So the kind of major difference is if you hit G, you can actually go to a different repository. So if I just go to Antiphon, and I'll show you, you don't even have to do the whole word, you can actually get suggestions. So if we go here, you'll see some new settings have kind of loaded, because the way that I've set this up is you can see here you can use global settings or you can switch to a repo settings. So if we go here to Blue Orbit, which is another project that I'm currently working in, Blue Orbit, you can see here it's a repo specific setting. So we actually have some presets here. I can just show you them because it's quite interesting. Before we do that, I'll just show you, I typed in a new one here to improve the UX of Blue Orbit. So we can basically change these settings and then just hit Control Save. And if you name it the same as the preset you've loaded, it will override it. Otherwise, it will be a new preset. So if I do UX to UX, then it's a new preset. So otherwise, we've got an init, which is just an empty one. We've got a co-review preset, an architecture debate, and then just to show a little bit of the functionality, we can go here into like a world building, Socratic dialogue, which is quite interesting, optimist versus contrarian, a murder mystery, and then what I've done here is this UX to UX, just to show you the functionality. Next, what we have is that we can set the turns. So you can either hit backslash and just say how many turns you want. So let's say we want 10, or you can just hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. to define the amount of turns. So in this So in this case, we'll just go with 2. The mode here is relay X, which means, oh, sorry, not relay X, relay A, which means that our prompt is only going to go to agent A, which is Aria. We can also play in mode relay AB, which basically sends this brief to Aria and to Basil. Because sometimes you want actually both agents to be informed what they are on about. Sometimes it's actually quite interesting just to feed the initial prompt to agent A, and then agent B basically just responds to whatever agent A puts out. Then we have some options for layout. So there's a very basic, just basically conversation layout. This is just the conversation running. And then we have this thinking mode, which is a try panel. And I've created also another little just animation, which I'll let us run. It's just to visualize a little bit who's currently speaking. Then there's the think expand on N, which is basically, I'll show you, we can wrap either the thinking or expand it. And then this tmux, so it's actually a debug mode. If you're running in tmux, what will happen is that you'll get 2 debug windows underneath, but otherwise typically we're just running with it off, because obviously I have the thinking models coming through here as well. And then I've kind of set it up to be based around this 3-column layout, the hotkeys. So we can use A to select the model of Aria and Q to modify its prompt. And then for Basil, we have D for the model and E for the prompt. And W is our brief. And then S we can modify and change our presets. So for models, you can use either Claude or Codex. These are both in CLI mode. And you can also use Codex in API mode. So for that, obviously, you need to set an API key in your environment variable, but that's also inside of the environment example. So for now, we'll go with Claude. Here on Basil, we also go with Claude. Just to get a quick sense, so Blue Orbit is a project that I'm currently in the process of kind of working on, which is kind of a further development of having different Ralph loops run and potentially linking them. You can see there's some UI kind of mistakes, but that's fine. So that's kind of what we'll be working on. And we'll just let this run for turns. And we'll just be able to see how this kind of functions. So the initial prompt is design prompt: what animations would improve the UX of Blue Orbit? When you feel confident, write a spec into specs. So we have a spec folder there. And I've given Aria the system prompt that they are a UX designer who values simplicity and fluidity in user experience. And they're going to argue for preferred approach and acknowledge real trade-offs and trying to get it to think outside of the box. And then as a counterpart, we have Basil, who is also an experienced UX designer, but who typically sees and critiques generic UX workflows, and they favor craftsmanship and fluidity. So he's gonna they're gonna review whatever Aria is put out. So what you can see here is Aria is already in the process of thinking. So the user wants me to act as a UX designer, and he's running a bunch of tools so that they can see into the repo itself, because this is running now in the Blue Orbit repo and not in the Antiphon repo. So this is really where this tool becomes quite powerful, because it can kind of be a cockpit that you can point to different projects that you have and then to work inside of that. So let's see what Aria comes up with here. Okay, so Aria's done some thinking. Now I have a comprehensive picture of Blue Orbit UI. Let me think about this as a UX designer. So this is really the chain of thought that he's outputting, or they're outputting. He's thinking about the orbit running state, the chain connection, which is the diamond node, which I showed you, sidebar expand and collapse, etc. And he's doing some more reading. Let's see, I'm going to skip page transitions, chart animations, and scroll reveal. Entirely those patterns don't fit at all. Okay, so he's actually drafting this as a clean spec in spec/animations. So he's already feeling confident enough to write that spec. Let's actually see what happens when Basil's turn starts. I mentioned that with N you can collapse the thinking, so if it gets in the way, if you don't want to scroll the way, we can just hit N. So Aria says, let me read the key components, understand the current interaction model before proposing anything. There's already a front-end motion spec, right? That was already there. And let me read it before writing anything so I don't duplicate. Okay, well, let's see what happens here. So he's already in the process of writing, and now he's kind of reviewing the front-end motion spec. Now I'm thinking through each animation opportunity. The wirebox modal is the most obvious candidate, since opening and closing represents the biggest spatial shift in the app, jumping from a small card to a full screen animation. That's right. So he's referring to this aspect of the sidebar kind of opening, which obviously quite a lot of movement. And of course, the advantage we have of building like this, rather than user to AI and then back to user, is because coding agents are extremely biased towards coming up with ideas and then implementing them. Basil's going to be relatively creative and thinking about what Aria has kind of shared. So we kind of have like a double leverage, right? Because we can see when we work with agents, they're really pushing forward to implement and build something. And especially when we're doing something like this where we're critiquing, we're getting a lot of signal out of it back and forth. And by being on the loop, we can actually see what their movements are. Okay, so let's just see what we get here. So Aria's kind of speaking about the wire model, opening and closing. He's proposed an animation with some particulars, and Basil is now in the process of thinking about this. So the user wants me to review the other agent's motion animation proposal. Okay, so he's already read it. Okay, so the Wirebox model transition undersells itself. Start 0.96 is too conservative. So, right, he's kind of going in this like generic versus craftsman. So he's kind of going into that direction that we've given him. Orbit card fly direction will feel wrong on reconnection. Right, so this is interesting. He's already thinking about particular edge cases, which when I'm working with AI, I'm of course thinking about the bigger picture, but something that software testers are really good at is they're thinking about edge cases. And coming more from a product slash creative perspective here and a non-technical perspective, I'm potentially missing edge cases, but AI is good at realizing them, especially when they're tasked to kind of critique. So Basil's kind of going in the direction and thinking about cases that maybe also Aria hasn't considered yet. So he's making some suggestions. Good pushback. Let me check the state model before responding on the fly direction. On the fly direction question. Good. Let me verify the fly direction concern against the actual state model before responding anything. Right. So the power of having this directed in a repo and having two agents speak with each other is that you're not just working on a conceptual level or an ideation level of what you could make, but you can actually get the agents to look into the repo, what's already there, and then to bounce that back to the idea that you're discussing with them, or rather that they are discussing with each other. Okay, so he's suggesting some more improvements, some more ways to move with this. So this is interesting, right? When a card is removed from orbit state orbits, the div role presentation is removed from the DOM. The out transition orbit card handles the exit animation. So again, this is the power of actually having the agent be inside of the repo and then bouncing back to a kind of reviewer or tester agent that we have with Basil on the other side. Okay, so what has Aria come up with? So he's updating the spec with 5 revisions. Here's where I agreed, where I pushed back, and why. Right, so also agents are typically very motivated to explain what they're doing because they use that themselves when they're going through their own reasoning to understand why they would have done something. And so this is really helpful when we're bouncing back and forth conversations because Aria is really telling Basil exactly what they've done and with what rationale they've done that. So let's see what Basil then comes up with here. Now we are on 4 turns, so this is going to be the last turn. We'll see if it's enough. This was just a demo. You can actually also just run this with, let's say, 100 turns. And when you feel confident that they've got what they have, which they typically, you'll see they kind of say, cool, we finished. Then Basil says, awesome, we're done. And then Aria says, yes, we're done. And then you know, okay, they're really finished. And then you can either hit P to pause, which means then nothing will happen on the next side, or you can just quit it. Here, obviously, it's just closed it now. So again, here, Basil's revisiting what Aria's done and is basically kind of countering. So it probably would have made sense to do 5 turns here, just to have Aria again have the possibility to review their plan and to change the implementation spec. Okay, so I hope this gives you a little bit of an insight. Just to show you, we could of course also just run a small murder mystery variant here, antiphon in a dark chamber, and let's just see what we get from this. Just to show you, you can play with this, and again, if you set some new presets, it'd be fun if you shared some of your presets that worked really well, because of course here we're, the way that you prompt and engineer what latent space we're kind of, Jeffrey Huntley talks about like tickling the latent space, which I like as a metaphor. It's about like certain words will move the agent into a certain space that they will then kind of fill with meaning and respond to, right? Because it's predictive. So when you kind of coax it or you tickle it into a certain direction, it's going to output predictions from that space. So it's really about being really fine with how you're moving it. So if you find some interesting prompts to kind of play with, do feel free to share them. We can also add them to the default presets, and then other people could use them as well. All right, so we've got a little bit of a murder mystery going here. I'm not going to read through it. but the door groans shut behind me. I let my eyes adjust to the dim light before moving a single step. All right, so they're just going to kind of play back and forth here. All right, so this is Antiphon. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to use it, it's super simple installation, and it's a global installation. So if you just do cargo install and then the GitHub, you can run it from anywhere. And the advantage now is we can actually point to the repository, so you're not locked to the global repo, but you can actually go anywhere where you want. All right, hope you have fun with it. Let me know how this works for you. I'd love to hear some feedback. And yeah, see you all next time. Ciao.